call to order. Everybody present, said Deborah, don't you? She's coming in late as usual.
No, I don't say that.
Like do our city council.
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for bringing us together as a city. Help us to make decisions that will glorify you and benefit the residents of our town. Forgive us where we're failing. In Jesus' name, amen.
The spreadsheet that I just handed out to you is slightly modified from the one that you received a couple of weeks ago. Let me tell you what the difference is. We had originally budgeted $600 per employee per month for health insurance. Based on the quotes that we received, I lowered that to $550. Also, with the new contract with IESI for solid waste collection, I had a plug number in the previous drafts of what we had collected last year in franchise fees for solid waste. I went back and sharpened my pencil and updated that number, reflected the increase in solid waste franchise fee collections. And then also, the other difference was I had a calculation error in the amount that we would be charging Kruger on Crossroads for fire services. After going back, that number actually came down. Essentially, the bottom line number is still right at $14,412 left over for you to decide on how to spend. Everything is still status quo. Does not include any type of salary increase. So that's where we're at. Really, the only two pending items left for this budget is the TML insurance rates, which we're still knocking at their door trying to get their re-rates, and any salary increases that you might have.
If I remember right, this net budget balance of $14,000 is 2% overall for everything. Budget. Is that the amount we would need for it? It was like 13,000 and the other was for 3% of like 26,000.
Yes.
I'm going to re-express my concern that we're budgeting 100% of the money that we're collecting when we don't collect 100% of the money on a regular basis. I'm not smart enough, and I've stayed awake at night and thinking about this, and I've looked over this, and we cut a bunch of stuff out, and we added a bunch of stuff back in, and we're still at $14,000.
Still inflation.
So, I'm not smart enough to figure out what to do.
Can we speak? Are we allowed to speak?
Sure.
I have a question. On the fire equipment, 18,000. There's two reasons to buy fire gear. One, it's 10 years old. Two, if it did not pass inspection. The only reason that you have to. Have y'all been provided with that information?
We know, or I know from working closely with Jason that we bought, I think it was 2 sets of gear last year. Is that right, Jason? We talked
I
about
believe it was 2 or 3 cents last year.
And I know that the fire chief has said that he would watch that's bunker gear, right?
That's correct.
That particular item and only spend what he absolutely needed to, but he was basing his number on what he thought his turnover might be. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to get one. And honestly, I don't see how we go through the year without closely controlling every line item on here like we've done in the past. So just because there's a budget number there doesn't mean that we're going to spend that $18,000 on bunker gear.
I understand that, but you've got construction.
Not with the bunker gear.
That is a solid number.
I think with the bunker gear, that's gonna be custom made
Yeah,
for
it's
each
custom made for each
person,
person.
so we can't really just have it sitting on a hanger.
If it is 10 years old, there's
Scott,
only
can
two
you
things
address
that
that?
requires them.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta take consideration, when we first started budget, we talked about the turnover rate the fire department was having. That cost is associated with that person, because that next set of gear is not gonna fit that next person, because everybody's different. So that cost will be.
He's not gonna fit into the bunker gear.
Right, and I understand
You know,
that,
the use.
okay? But you're sitting there, and that's not a solid number. If y'all would, there's other things in here, like the mayor's salary, he has agreed to give it up. In the Texas Local Government Code book, there is responsibilities that states in there, black and white, what his responsibilities are. And one of them is doing the budget, and I've not yet seen that. You're paying Jason to do a budget, when it's the mayor's responsibility, so.
No,
and, you
it's
know,
not
you're
his
sitting
responsibility,
here-
it's his responsibility to oversee the budget.
To oversee the budget.
Can you say he's done that,
Yes.
okay?
He's been involved in many meetings that Jason's been in.
But the citizens, it's our tax dollars that's being spent. And the mayor told, Roy Mango that he would give up his salary.
No, I said that
So-
we could, next year, we could budget out the mayor's salary. There's a way you have to do it, and, you know, next year we can get rid of it.
Well, I appreciate your comments about the library. I know Mrs. Carter has agreed to do a latchkey kid program for free at the library. And if you were here, I don't remember if you were here that very first day when we talked about, the library budget, and I went through my spreadsheet, which is, I'm guilty of starting all of this actually. Kathy had put in $1,700 for the senior program that we had never funded before. It had always been done through donations. And I'm not sure how it got put into the budget this year, and we're not doing that through donations again. Maybe you guys.
It was just a request.
Okay.
It was just a budget
Just a
request.
budget
It
So-
wasn't, you know, it wasn't in the budget, it was, that was
Yeah.
one of the request
It was
items.
just a
Right.
request.
You know, just like the PD and the fire and everybody else, everybody has.
Well, so hang on a
request
second, so if it
items.
was just a request item, if we denied the request, does that mean the program wasn't going forward?
No.
No.
So then all of the,
Some way.
so then the Denton Record Chronicle article and all of the stuff that was handed out and all of the other stuff that basically said this program's in jeopardy wasn't really,
Some of the programs, I mean, I don't know that the library could sustain it for that long. That's why it was a budget request, because it's a new program. We just started it.
okay.
So that's why it was on our wish list. And as far as the article in the Denton paper, I don't know where I'm at. I didn't talk to anybody at the library.
They take a lot of stuff that they've had in the past, and then they take a lot of stuff that they,
Make up?
I'm not gonna say that, but, you know, they take a lot of things that are said in the past and everything like that, and then the way things are said, and then they write an article.
You're not saying
They
bad
did
stuff
not
about
talk
newspaper
anything.
reporters, are you?
No, I'm not.
I was asking Gary.
Well, I can say that they don't always get it, you know, you can say, about an hour's worth, and they put about one little snippet, whatever they want you to say is what they put in there, so.
Except Heather, though.
Except Heather. Heather
It's
is very-
interesting though to me, and I know this is a side discussion, so I'm gonna make my one comment and we can move on, but it's interesting to me how their story mirrored identically the message that was being sent from the library and the literature that was handed out and all sorts of other stuff, with no correction to the fact that there were protections put in place for the programs that were talked about in that article.
But
So that's
there
what
really-
was frustrating to me.
There really wasn't. I mean, our story time is contract labor, and that's one of the cuts that was made.
Right, but there was
And
also.
Seniors in Motion is a brand new program, so, you know, the expense of that would be a new expense, and that's why it was in the budget request. We'll do everything we can to keep it going.
And whether
but
it goes
was-
forward in the budget, or whether it goes forward with donations and volunteers.
Yeah, we want it to
yeah,
keep going.
you know, we want it to keep
We
going.
don't want it cut, but it was definitely scary.
So we're not gonna just cut out the entire senior program.
If I could comment on what Kathy handed out, I guess, last week. I just did a quick review of her budget figures versus what we had already done. It's in this budget. So about a $9,000 difference. The majority of which comes from contract labor or the children's story time cutting. So really, everything else somewhat mirrors or matches up to a certain degree, but the big difference is in story time.
And, Janet, there's another volunteer who's willing to help.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Who's willing to help, Francis handle the story time stuff, so it's not solely on her responsibility. And I gave that information to Kathy.
You still do the story time, but you just do it in a different manner than what we have been doing it, you know. I mean, it's really nice to have somebody contract that does that and just really
Well,
knows what they're doing.
she's there every week and you
Yeah.
can depend on her and you don't have to.
I once had a guy tell me that volunteers were great if they showed up.
That's exactly right, Mayor.
So, you know,
Well, let's-
I understand some of that concern.
So Jeff, thanks for showing up for your volunteer responsibilities tonight. Janet, thank you for showing up. I mean, we're all volunteers here.
But you're
Nobody's-
elected volunteers. Except
We-
for
we-
one. It's different.
Except for one. Well, not necessarily.
You have more responsibility than just somebody off the street wanting to, you know?
No, it's not, that's not true. Because I think if you volunteer for something, it's your responsibility as a volunteer to keep going with that job.
Well, it is,
Yeah,
but
because, you
not
know-
all of them do.
Does that mean I have to show up next week?
Yes. Yeah, I think we need to have, with all of our organizations, we need to have contracts with volunteers. Make them sign a contract, you know?
Well, when we're talking though about Frances Carter, I'm not sure that there's really a big long discussion necessary about whether or not she's reliable or
Oh, she's
or
very
accountable
reliable.
or all the things that we're looking for. I mean, look, I managed volunteers for a living for years, and I know how difficult that process is. But at the same time, there are a core group of them that you could ask them to do something. A lot of them are in this room today. You could ask them to do something, they'll be there every time, no matter what. And Frances fits that category, in my opinion. And so I
You're
think
right.
if she's offered to run the story time, we should take her at face value that she's gonna do it. She's gonna do a good job. The kids already love her. There's no issue from that perspective. So I think that, the demise of the library has been a little overblown over the last 3 weeks or so in regards to what's cutting and what's happening and all those sorts of things. And I just want to make sure that we're all looking at this thing from the same perspective. This is not meant to be a punishment to anybody in the city. It's just circumstances. And hopefully we can get through this stuff. We can figure out a way to grow Aubrey so that we can fund all the stuff we need and put money in the bank, which is an absolutely critical.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Do we have a dollar amount on how much money the mayor has spent without going before the council? Because I know his limit is $5,000. Do we have a financial statement that tells us what he has spent that did not go before the council for approval?
If it was off budget, I'm not sure that there's.
Yeah, why would we care
anything, but-
if it's in the budget?
Well, because if it was necessary, that's fine, but you may need to go back and limit him and let the council, this is a council-run government, not a mayor. The council makes the decision, not the mayor.
We'd never get anything approved.
Well, that's why y'all are elected.
That's actually not a bad thing.
It takes a majority.
What, then we wouldn't ever spend money? Yeah, you're right, I got it.
Never
But,
been.
my job is like to approve POs up to $5,000. Anything over is budgeted that's spent over $5,000, then,
Now, how often can you spend that $5,000? Is it per day, per month, per quarter? What?
Per line item.
it's just per budgeted item, what is in the budget. I mean, we don't spend any money that's not in the budget. If it's not budgeted, it's not in there, then
I see the
you know, I
structure
never
up
have bought
here.
anything.
I see the structure up here maybe a little bit differently. I see the 5 councilmen as kind of the board of directors. Gary is the CEO. He runs the day-to-day operations
Yeah.
around here. And he has approval authority by the council to spend certain amounts of money. He doesn't make $5,000 purchases that aren't in the budget, at least not that I know of.
Not that I know of.
So as long as it's a previously budgeted item, and we knew it was getting spent, approve the budget, I think that is the approval that he needs to be able to authorize that purchase.
Roy, let me go it one step further. Even if it was included in the budget in prior occasions, let's take the bunker gear, for example, because we talked about that before. That's over $5,000. It's still in the budget. We still bring it back to the council
Yeah.
for approval. So there's another safety factor built into that. Even though it's already approved in the budget, we still bring it back for council approval. And that's typically what's happened for the past 3-4 years.
But, you know, everything that the mayor approves and spends, or has spent, has came from a PO from one of those department heads that was something that in the budget, and it was approved. If it was less than $5,000. But first, it has to be approved by the department head.
Yeah, and that's where your controls are. You've got your department.
That's what I want to know.
You got your department head approving it, then you've got Gary approving it, and at the same time, the city secretary's reviewing it. So there are 3 people that are reviewing every transaction.
And that's fine, I mean, that's why I'm asking questions. Does this council, you know, are y'all keeping up with what money is being spent? So a lot of it is
Well, we
not
get a financial
make sure
report.
it's being spent
Get a
on what it
financial
needs to
report
be.
every month.
You get a financial
After
report
that's
every
for the last
month.
couple of months, yeah.
You get a financial every month.
And honestly, there's not a lot of money to spend, once you pay salaries and all of
Yeah.
those things. There's not a lot of money in this budget, there's about $600,000, and that's, you know, by the time we get bunker gear and things that the chief wants, and the things that Kenny needs for the streets, there's not a lot of money that's floating around left over. In fact, that's why we don't have a savings account, or reserve, or whatever they call it in city.
Cash flow balance.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, he could use that $14,000 up on asphalt tomorrow. Never bat an eye. Probably go down one street, right?
Yeah,
So we
$14,000, now about 10 loads of asphalt.
Yeah.
That's not much, is it?
No.
Not much.
So all we have left is the budget, in the budget is salary.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that.
Well, I hoped, I heard Kathy had an unfortunate accident today.
What?
Did she broke her foot? Is that right?
Oh, shit.
She was moving
Yeah,
from
right.
it, and the door fell off and hit her foot.
What
and
fell off? Sorry?
It's the door of a cabinet she was moving.
Oh my God.
At home or at work?
At work. So I took her to the emergency room, I'm gonna hear back from her.
Well, dang it.
I know, I told her something about her and budget meetings, it just,
She's sort of jinx.
I know.
Wow.
Don't let her rub off on you.
She's already got a splint on
I
her
just think the
finger.
first time
I
she
know.
broke her foot.
Well, she hurt her finger too?
I know, Allison.
Oh, Allison.
Didn't she break something before? Or was
Her
it-
neck, she was in
No,
that
I thought
hit
she
and run, yeah.
got rear end calf. But it was her neck, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so, it's a little unfortunate that she's not here, because I think it would help, look at these numbers a little bit, but, we're gonna have to rely on you, Jason. What do we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staff members right now. Is that right? Not counting my son, who, for the record, has submitted his resignation to the library and won't be working there after next
Sad
week.
about that too.
I'm sad too. He's gonna still volunteer down there, which would be good for the community. So minus him, what do we have left in terms of people on staff there?
And let me back into that, Roy. What we have done in the prior years is just allocated, in this case, $118,000 for salaries for the library. And then Kathy, based on that number, then goes and schedules work around that budget amount. So I can't honestly answer that question. I've asked several weeks ago to get an update on the hours worked and so forth, and still haven't received any response. But just based on what information I have, it's about 5 employees, and I'll double check that.
Well, what I was hoping to avoid was just throwing a number out there that sounded good, but wasn't practical or applicable to the situation. But I'll tell you where my head's at. I'm at around 85,000 in terms of salaries for the library. That's a reduction of about 33,000. I don't know how that factors in terms of my son being gone and not having to lay him off. I know Elaine's not working there, and I know that was an open position, but if we don't replace her, what are we looking at in terms of savings from salary with those two salaries missing? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, what does the current staff of people cost us to run every year?
Per person?
When I look at my payroll spreadsheet, again, I don't have the hours verified. My spreadsheet actually shows $136,000 for payroll, but we only budget $118,000.
So it's over budget, you mean?
No. The budget is set at $118,000.
He was requesting more than.
Oh.
Yes, I needed to verify the hours worked in order to get a true budget figure. This is just based off of what I've had in prior years. I know that one employee was making a little over $18,000, and the next one was about $9,000. So you're looking at $27,000 there.
Well, I'm sorry, I was talking while you were talking. Did you say the $18,000 employee was gone?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so is the $9,000 employee.
Okay.
Or will be before this budget year ends.
Okay. And then
So he won't be around for next budget year.
the girl that I saw is new, right? Shalice,
No,
She stepped in to take over some of Elaine's responsibilities.
She worked there, she quit, and now she's been hired back.
Right, but we took away 18, we took away 9, and we have to add back her?
She was already in here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
She was a part of that 118.
Okay.
So you roughly, what, 27,000? If you don't fill those two positions.
That still leaves me a little short of what I was anticipating taking from that budget to reallocate to police and fire salaries, but. And then the second half of my discussion, I guess we'll have to wait until Kathy's back, because I want the library to reopen on Fridays. So, I think if Pilot Point can run, they have 2 full-time employees now. I called them and talked to them today, and I heard all the reasons why you can't compare Aubrey to Pilot Point, and none of them have been any really good comparisons for me. I realize that's a smaller lot, or a smaller building, and maybe they provide a little bit less services to the community, but they do it with a lot less money, and they have a lot more taxpayers supporting their library. So,
If you took, what would you want to take it down to 85?
yes.
And
That would only leave you about 31,000 for other support assistance.
I actually went in a totally different direction than you. After thinking about this, I talked to Tommy and I talked to Kenny and listened to the fire chief last time we had a meeting, the library folks, et cetera, I've kind of, we cut a lot of things out of the budget, then we put them back in, we're down to $14,000 again. I'm at the point where I think it might be best if we look at this from a short-term solution, to give an across-the-board raise of 2 or 3%, come back next year and increase taxes, so that we can do the things that we really need to do for this city, and work on the salary, really work on the salaries then, and start on that process as soon as we finish this budget process, so that we're not doing this every night, like, 2 or 3 nights a week, like we are now. Yeah. I'm not even supposed to be here, I'm supposed to be somewhere else. So, I want everybody to be paid fairly. I just don't know how we get there with this amount of money.
Well, you take some of it from the library budget and you give it to the police and fire folks. I mean, I don't mean to sound crass about it or flip about it, but that's really, look, at the end of the day, we've got some folks that are being paid really poorly here at Aubrey. If we wait another year, there is a really good chance that
They'll be gone.
there's a good chance they're going to leave and they're going to go work somewhere else. We're going to have to start this process all over again. And quite frankly, the time is now to take responsibility for the bad decisions that have been made in Aubrey forever in terms of funding stuff. And the blame doesn't rest solely on this council or previous council. opposite rests on the responsibility of the citizens for voting for all of this stuff that we are now indebted to pay every year. But you can't continue to put off taking your medicine. And we're at that point in our community where we've got to start doing something. And, you know, again, I know it sounds like to you folks that I'm picking on the library, and that is absolutely unequivocally not the case. But I continue to look at these numbers, and every time I get a new set of numbers, we spend more than we should on our library. I looked at other communities, they're spending 4 to 5% of their annual general fund budget to fund their libraries. That's from small communities all the way to City of Bristol, 4 to 5%. We spend 9%. I mean, at some point, those numbers have to correct themselves, and we have to reallocate the money somewhere else. And I just think that waiting is a dereliction of our responsibility, frankly. And I think that we've got to make these decisions. We've got to make them now. It's not going to be fun for anybody, but maybe for the police and firemen to get a couple extra bucks in their pay. But they're only going all they're going to be able to do is start to catch up because they've been so far behind for so long. So
that number, does the cost of that number though include the building, like the community center and the whole building?
no. The 9% number does not include debt servicing for that building. Is that right? It's not part of this general fund budget.
No.
Doesn't include.
That's paid for out of your property taxes.
Right, but not included in this 2.2 million that's in this budget that I'm looking at here. Yeah, it doesn't include that. It includes the cost to operate the budget, salaries, and you know, insurance and all of the other stuff.
If you went up to 5%, it would cost you another a total of $36,000 to do a 5%. 2% was $14,000, 3% was $22,000, 5% was what did I say, $36,000.
There is no chance that I'm voting for a 5% across the board pay increase for everybody in all of our employees. The measures to reduce the library budget, from my perspective at least, is to correct the salary imbalances in police and fire. And that's what I would hope that we use that money for. If we're going to take $30,000, $35,000, whatever the number is, out of the library salaries, that number, dollar for dollar, should be transferred directly to police and fire. The other $14,000 on here, we can do whatever we want with it. You can put it in a rainy day fund and not give anybody else a raise for all I care. But the police and fire folks need a reasonable increase in their pay.
One thing that Janet and I did talk about that's not factored into any of this is to take half of Chief Starr's salary that we pay and forward that over to the First Officer Supply Districts. They don't pay any part of his salary to oversee the department. And if you did that, that would free up another $8,000.
But it has to be in the agreement, right? Doesn't?
The agreement is set that it's based on an employee.
That's a fantastic idea.
And he's an employee.
So why have we not done it before?
We didn't think of it before.
We just haven't.
Nobody's ever thought of it.
Roy, you're still saying
Who would
police
charge
and fire,
that?
what about Kenny and them? Did they not get a raise too?
Kenny's in the enterprise fund.
Kenny's not part of this general fund budget.
So there's $8,000.
So we've got.
Got somebody looking out for you.
I know it, I told her, thank you.
Yeah.
So you got
We'll be down to mow your
27
yard
plus
tomorrow.
Pay her something.
Okay, that'll make you 35,000. If you take 27,
And 8.
those two people, and add 8,
Or a pen.
that's 35, yeah.
Now, and let's be clear, the 35 only gets us less than a third of what the police and fire, in order to get them to that 65th percentile, that's only about a third. It's actually a little less than a third of the number.
I don't think it's feasible to get them there all in one fell
No.
swoop.
Well, I mean, that's obvious, but the only reason I said it is because there have been claims that we're trying to get from A to Z without any stops in between, and I just wanted to make it clear that that's not the case. With this, there is no, the truth is, Janet, there may not ever be a way to get them to that 65th percentile.
I agree.
Not the way our budget looks today, and the
I
slow
agree.
growth in Aubrey and the debt that we carry and everything else, I don't think we ever get them to the 65th. And the truth is, I don't know that these folks work out here to be in the 65th percentile. There's something that goes along with working in Aubrey and living here and serving this community that you can't equate in dollars. And I think all of them have taken that into consideration to some degree. But this only gets them a measure towards what they have asked for and where we're going. And so I think 35,000. If we reduce the library by the 27 in employees that are already off, that way we don't lay anybody off. This is a nice, painless. Now, I would suggest that we still take the 35 from the library, and it doesn't have to mean 30,000 for everybody else. I mean, Kathy can renegotiate her salary if she'd like. I mean, she's not.
That's not fair. That's not fair to her.
Well,
I mean, really.
why is it not fair?
Because she earns that salary, just like anybody else in the city earns a salary.
Well, with all due respect, everything that the folks that work here do is serve the public.
Exactly. We all
And
do.
that library is closed for 20% of the time that Kathy is getting paid.
At council's request, we closed on Friday.
Well, so if we asked you to reopen the library on Friday.
We don't have a problem with that,
Okay.
if you give us the staff. I mean, there's no problem. We'd love to be open another day.
How does Pilot Point pull off, and any one of you folks that works or serves the library are free to answer. I'm genuinely asking questions because I don't understand.
What are the hours that they're open?
They're open 41 hours a week. I don't know
But
exactly
what
their
are the
hours.
hours?
Jeff, do you remember?
I don't recall, I had the pamphlet a while back.
They're
By the
open
way,
Tuesday through
we closed
Saturday.
on Friday because 2 years ago, we had the same budget problem.
Yeah.
And that was one solution.
Well, I realize that, and they're open 8:30 to 5:30 Tuesday
I don't
through
think
Friday,
you can
9
use
to 2
that
on Saturday.
as a tool to say, well, you're only open X number because blah, blah, blah. Because the fact of the matter is, that's why we did it.
Well, I would.
To satisfy the budget.
Sure.
And that's, I can't argue with anything you've said, quite frankly. My son's a policeman, and I'm sure the fire folks are the most underpaid and unappreciated people in America, along with the
Soldiers,
troops,
yeah.
the military troops. My son's a policeman. He's been pitifully underpaid for 20-some odd years, so, I have a heart for the police especially, but also for the firefighters, because they're the same sort of deal.
Yeah, but you have to look at this, how many cities don't have libraries? To me, a library is an accessory, not a necessity.
Yeah.
Our police, fire, streets, sewer line, all of that is a necessity. It's a day-to-day requirement that we have to have. We cannot live without. Before Aubrey got the library, where did we go? To Denton. We have the
Well, now they
internet, we
charge
have
you.
the schools.
Now they charge you $50 if you're not there.
But what's $50? Let few people that use it spend $50 and let's cut the cost of the library. I understand where Roy's going.
I know the Pilot Point librarian doesn't have a master's degree, but she also works for about $20,000 less than our librarian. So,
Well, and again, this has turned into, first it was I think it was me in particular, I was accused of pitting the library against the police and fire, and I hope that most of the folks in the community have gotten over that. That certainly wasn't my intention or where I was going, and now it seems like it's a discussion between the Aubrey Library and the Pilot Point Library, but all we have is the ability to compare against other things and to understand how they're able to do it versus how we do it. They collect taxes on about twice as many people as we do. Their community is a little over 5,000, ours is just a little over 2,500. So they have roughly twice the property tax collection we do. They probably have twice the sales tax revenue and all sorts of other stuff. But they're able to operate their library on a, not even percentage-wise, on a lower dollar amount than we are. And I think we have to ask ourselves why that is, how it is, and how do we streamline and refine and get our library functioning so that we can do some of the same things. And this is just a challenge this isn't a challenge solely to the library. I do this in my business every day. I try to figure out how we can do more with less. And it's the same with folks at home, people that are barely making ends meet or trying to figure out how to do it at home with the rising gas prices and everything else. They're having to reallocate money and spend it elsewhere, and that's all we're up here doing. This is, and again, my intent isn't to pick on Kathy, and I wish she were here so it didn't seem like it was. And again, I had a personal meeting with her, and I made it very clear that no matter how it feels, that's not my intention. But, so I'd ask you guys, what does Pilot Point do differently? How are they able to do that with such less money than we are? Does anybody know?
Do you have any, like, statistics on, like, their cert count, how many patrons come to their door daily? Anything
No,
like
Jeff
that?
had some of that stuff a few weeks ago, but I don't have any of that stuff handy.
We've got their budget, their pamphlet that shows how many hours they're open, some of the services they provide.
We don't have any statistics.
I do know they service about the same amount of people we do, I would say.
That's including the folks that are
Krugerville,
from Krugerville and
Crossroads.
Providence and Savannah and Plum Creek and all the other places.
Did you figure
And they
they-
do it with less money than we do at the end of the day.
I'll say something, I understand Janet's point of view there, but I think that's what's got us in this jam for the last several years, and I don't understand what she thinks might be different next year than this year, other than our equipment is another year older.
Well, I wanna raise taxes next year.
Hmm?
I wanna raise taxes next
Oh,
year, which
okay.
we've never done.
Yeah.
We haven't done that in several years. And I think we've actually, as a city, moved ourselves into fiscal irresponsibility by not raising taxes.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
But for an example, I know that I turned in an open records request for the fence ordinance. Just strictly a fence ordinance. It went from here to the attorney, which y'all had to pay, to the Attorney General's office, and then you spent $5.75 on sending me a certified letter to let me have what I could have gotten here at City Hall. Today was the first day I have ever called and asked for an ordinance and got it.
Well,
Every time, and I have papers here of money that's being wasted. It's $5, but $5 also starts adding up. That's just me. There's a lot of money that has been wasted on stuff like that, which I've tried to, it's open records, people. And y'all shouldn't fight me when I ask for an ordinance, and it shouldn't have to go to the city attorney.
is it not on the website?
I don't know, but I think your past experiences with the city hopefully aren't your future experiences, and I think this last one.
That's why I'm here,
Goes-
to bring to the attention.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. We said this about a month ago or 6 weeks ago here on this council. I asked about a review of our procedures for handling open records requests. If it's not gonna embarrass a citizen by having their name on a document, if we need to redact their personal information off of there, or we need to protect ourselves from litigation or a negotiation we're handling with another city, if it doesn't fall in one of those two categories, we should hand it over to you.
Yes, sir.
There's no other reason behind it, and occasionally it has to go to the attorney, but not a fence ordinance. I mean, that kind of stuff gets a little silly. I think it's being fixed. It sounds to me like Isaac has a much better plan for dealing with that stuff and a procedure for handling it. Isaac, how long did that take you to give her that ordinance that she requested today?
Less than 30 minutes.
That's fantastic. So, good job. Hopefully it will be someday. If it's not on there, I don't know if anybody saw, but the Aubrey News website is up. It's not, don't go blabbing to everybody that there's a whole bunch of information on there yet. But we did put some information up there, and we'll eventually get ordinances and other things up on that site. If it doesn't go to the Aubrey city site, we'll get it up somewhere so that it's easy for our citizens to get that information. It should be easy. You shouldn't have to ask anybody for it. You should be able to just find it.
Correct.
And we're working on that stuff.
Thank you.
We're also codifying the ordinances, so we're getting a lot of that straightened out with that this year.
modify them.
We got to, if we do it now or do it later, we got to.
Well, the problem is, you kept putting that off, putting it off, we got ordinance, piece
Keep
over
putting
here,
off
piece over
everything.
there, piece over here, piece over there.
We keep putting off everything.
And
Yeah.
that's the problem, is going through those ordinances, and you have, give her 3 ordinances, and they're all valid, but certain parts of them are all been redacted.
Right.
Or they've all been amended.
One step at a time though, folks, this isn't gonna happen overnight. We, you know, like our country, we didn't get into this mess yesterday, and we're not gonna get out of it tomorrow. It's gonna take some time, and hopefully some patience and some understanding from the folks in the community too. It's gonna be a little painful on everybody. Do we pay off any debt this year? We do. What does that save us a year in payments?
I'd have to do it.
I know it's very little,
There's
probably
one-
$15,000 or
There's one
something
that
like
comes, I think, out of the police department or something, that, or some of those that are in the general fund budget. One of those disappears in 2013. 4 of them are paid off in 2014, but I don't know which ones they are.
The biggest one for the police department is that the building payment. That's $14,000+ a year that comes out of our general fund and not out of our INS. And there's a solution to that, but it's gonna cost you a little bit to do it.
Yeah, we don't have enough for that.
Gotta see yourself.
Yeah, I know.
I'm willing to crunch numbers if given some type of direction to go. You know, we've got the 14,000 that's left, the 8,000 that we've discussed about Chief Star moving half of Chief Star's salary over. That frees you up with 22,000, not including any of the cuts that Roy's mentioned with the police department, with the library. So that's anywhere from 27 to 35,000 on top of that. So what's that take you? 47,000?
49.
49.
22 and 27 is 49.
49,000.
That 35, what kind of pay rate will that give the fire? 40, just 35, not touching the 14 that we show us.
About 10%.
That's 10% for Tommy and 10% for Scott and 10% for everybody. And I think that, no offense guys, but money's gotta be allocated a little disproportionately to the folks
That's
that are.
across the board at 10%.
I mean, there's no way that I can sit up here and ask the library to take the kind of cuts they're taking and then pay, you know, our department heads another 10% increase. That just doesn't make sense to me. But
Like you
get your
said,
point.
just to answer your question, it's roughly about 10%.
What if you took, can you do a really quick calculation for me? Take out Tommy's salary, take out Scott's salary from fire, and leave and that leaves everybody else in the departments, right?
Mike, yeah.
Mike's salary.
Mike's
so
wasn't
take
included.
Mike's out too.
Mike's was not included in that number anyway.
You'll take out the Tommy and Scott, and we'll, then you can give me a number. Probably gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 or 14%.
Well, and I have to say, I don't think that anybody's less deserving of getting a raise. I mean, maybe it's not 10%, but I think that everybody should get something.
We'll use the other 14,000 that's sitting over here in the net budget balance and give the rest of the staff 2% raise if you want, or 3%, because it'll actually we won't need all.
I mean, Tommy and Mike and.
We'll give them a 2% raise like you're gonna give everybody else. Whatever we give to the.
About 11%.
Wow, didn't say much.
Didn't change much.
I have a question. You've got a building permit clerk, but no permits are being issued.
Isaac, what else does,
She does court also.
Is she, so she's building clerk / court clerk?
Correct.
Then that's fine. But I can't see paying building clerk if there's no permits being issued.
Which statute are in 90?
We've issued 3.
yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and,
She's still
and
temporary,
Janet, when
she
you talk
doesn't-
about raises for everybody, what about the folks that are at the 90th percentile? Some of the staff that works here and others, you still wanna give them raises?
Well, maybe not the same raise that we give everyone else. This is part of why I said, give everybody something, and then figure this out when you're not under such pressure.
pressure.
No,
Yeah.
we're never not gonna be under pressure.
I
We're
think
always
those
gonna
people
have to deal with these
should get a raise, but
responsibilities.
maybe not the same value. And you don't have to give everybody the same percentage value of a raise.
But I think just across the board, percentage increases going forward would be is a silly idea for our community. We should have merit-based increases based on the job that they do, and,
Well,
and-
whether you have the money to give those raises.
Well, right, no, look,
Consideration.
but people should still have semi-annual evaluations of their job performance, so they know how they're doing, in the eyes of their employer and their bosses and other people, and if there is money to give raises, I mean, we're gonna pay debt off next year, maybe there'll be raise, you know, who knows? I mean, a million things could happen here, and Aubrey's not gonna be in this mess forever.
The thing on that, if you don't mind, is it needs to be consistent with the review, because.
I couldn't
we'll
agree
do
more.
them, and then we'll quit doing them.
Could not agree more. And there needs to be an ordinance or something in our rules that requires the department heads to do reviews of their employees and for us to do reviews of the department heads.
When we did.
I couldn't agree more, Scott.
Well, staff at the fire department, I do the lieutenants do their guys, because they work with them on a daily basis.
It's exactly how it should be.
And then the department heads seem to be left off at most places.
Yes.
But another thing too is y'all are paying the insurance of these employees. If they have to pay their insurance, it's one thing, but with y'all paying their insurance, that's also an increase for them because they're getting their insurance paid for. So 2% plus taking on the extra expense of their insurance when they don't have to pay it.
Was it 500 last year, it's gonna be 550 this year, so you're giving everybody a $50 raise?
It's a 10% increase on their benefit.
A month?
Yeah, $50.
So there you go.
Speaking of insurance, since we brought it up a few weeks ago, I think I'll readdress it again. You may not have been here. But we have somebody that's on our insurance policy that drives our rates through the roof. And I think we've got to deal with that too. And Janet, I think we need to deal with that this year too. I think we need to make some sort of an ordinance or rule that says if you're not a full-time salaried employee of the city, maybe 32 hours is fine. I'm not trying to determine what hours, but what I'm trying to do is get away from having to provide insurance to the judge, who increases the overall base cost of our insurance by $20,000 a year. I mean, that's over and above his premiums that he pays. There's a rate increase to the bottom line of $20,000.
Well,
And that's gotta be dealt with immediately.
When we talked about this last time, you said you would call him, did you call him?
No, we had not made any decisions, so no, I did not call. If we make a decision tonight, I will pick up the phone tomorrow and call.
Why are y'all paying his salary when he's the judge for other cities? He's also the judge for Argyle.
We
pay
only
him to work
pay
here?
him for when he's here. He's contract.
And
And his
reimburses the city for his
insurance, he pays for his insurance premiums himself. So we don't pay for any of his insurance,
Okay.
and we don't
It's just
pay
the
his
policy.
salary. But the thing that Roy's saying is, because he is on the policy, that it causes the whole group to rise.
Then let him go to Argyle.
Yes, I mean, Argyle certainly can afford it, as opposed to Aubrey, but, you know, I don't know what kind of emotion or decision we have to make, but if we make one, I'll pick up the phone. It's not gonna be hopefully I don't get any speeding tickets in Aubrey,
I'll pick up the phone. I'm a
anytime
citizen.
soon.
I don't have a problem calling and telling him, sorry, let Argyle take care of it.
But that's, Janet, assuming we can actually put that to bed over the next 30 days, give or take a few, there's another $20,000 we might have.
Will that affect our premium still if we
If he claims Cobra, he'll affect our premiums for up to 18 months.
yeah.
So.
But if he doesn't claim Cobra, if what,
I thought it was 6 months.
it's 18, but who was what's his name?
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
But what Eric said was that there are better options for him than Cobra. So if an insurance agent like Eric or somebody in his office can sit down and say, okay, this may look bad, but here are some other options that be a little less expensive for you, better benefits, whatever. Hopefully he takes door number 2 instead of Cobra, and it impacts our rates immediately. So the worst case scenario is he's on for the next 18 months no matter what. But if we don't take him off the policy this year, guess what? He's on for
Another 18 months next year.
for 30 more months.
Yeah.
Because he's
Without-
on for 12 plus the 18 we have to We have to get them off the policy. So, at some point, we need to make a real decision as a council to make that move, and I'll pick up the phone call if necessary.
I say go on.
I don't mean to kind of want to rush things, but I do want to tell you that next week is our public hearing, for our budget. The following week is when we are set to adopt the budget. So we need to make a determination on what we're gonna do on the salaries, and I need to leave in just a few minutes, but anyway.
Well, but to take the
That's
judge
where
off
I-
of our insurance, we don't have to have a, we don't have to have a meeting to do that, we can just decide in this workshop, right?
That's
I don't know if
the
you
thing
can
about
decide.
taking action in the workshop.
I don't know if you can decide.
You can't take
You can't take any action tonight, but you can certainly
You will have,
give staff,
you will have
give staff direction as to what, how to handle the situation. But where I'm going with this too is kind of backing up what Janet said earlier. I feel like what the city ultimately needs is a true salary survey and salary pay ranges developed for each of the positions. And that's something that you can't do in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks.
Nope,
Yeah.
with all due respect, Jason, who up here is trying to come up with a salary survey? We know 2 facts, unequivocally. Police and firemen are underpaid. That's all we're dealing with right now. We're not dealing with any of the other stuff. So nobody's trying to do any salary surveys or salary ranges or definitions or any of that kind of stuff. We're trying to deal with police and fire, and I agree with Janet, with you, that we need to look forward into the next election, the next budget cycle, to deal with this stuff, but, the police and fire stuff can be handled. I've already made my suggestions on how to handle this. I guess the question is.
The question is, then how do we, how do I need to go and apply it across, is it across the board? Is it employee by employee? Or? So, that's all.
Sounds to
I'm
me
looking
like you
for.
might wanna think about preparing competing budgets for, next week. So I'm not sure you're gonna get a consensus of the budget up on this,
I think you just need to figure out what part of this money you want to go there, and then we'll figure out how to get it. I mean, if you're gonna take 27,000 out of the library, which is the 2 salaries.
Yep.
And that's just, but you have to have a
That's
consensus.
through, attrition.
Does everybody pretty much agree with that, or not agree
But I
with
thought we
that,
could
or
make
have
a
any other
decision.
considerations, or?
It's a budget workshop, you can certainly give direction as to.
Yeah, you gotta give some kind of
You're not-
direction, which
You're
way
not
you want
approving
the
the
budget
budget.
to go, you're not approving it.
I just need some direction as to how to handle the situation.
Take the 35,000.
Yeah, I agree, take the 35, figure out how to divide it between the police and fire, leave the 14 for the reserve fund.
Well-
I don't think you should take the whole 35. If you take those 2 people out of there, you got $8,000 there. If you hired 2 $10 employees for 50 hours, 8 hours a day for 50 weeks, that's $8,000. And that'll
we're not
get you-
taking 35 from the library.
Yeah, we're not taking 30,
27.
yeah, but that's what I say, don't take the 35 from the library.
Yeah, no,
I'll
their
take the
35
27.
includes the 27 from the library
And the
and 8 from the
8,000
fire.
And Mike's
So
reallocation.
they're not suggesting we.
But I
cut.
don't thi- but I think that we
So
should
you take the
include all of
35
the
and
raises
split it
in the
between the
30.
fire department, the police department, and I think what you have to do is just sit down.
Essentially, that's a 10% pay raise across the board.
The 35,000, and then leave
You
the
can do it across
14,000
the
as
board.
reserve.
Well, what about the rest of the company?
Well,
Well, you've
35,000
got
was for
one
everybody,
employee
right?
in admin.
Well, other than the library, you only have.
We've got Isaac and we've got
Isaac
Jenny
and-
as the only 2 full-time employees right now in admin. The other
Well,
one is-
Jenny-
What about
Jenny's-
Allison and this young man that's sitting here and?
Yeah, I mean, they're in the library.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
No, I
but they
think
need
so.
raises too.
Absolutely,
We're
I think
talking about-
whatever we decide as an increase, outside of look, I don't know if there's a way to keep that $14,000 and put it in savings, to be honest with you.
I don't
think
think
so.
so.
I think you take that 14,000
I
and
guess I have
reallocate
a
that to.
question, do you have a car replacement fund for the police department?
We don't have, we've said this several times, we don't have a savings account, we don't have anything in the city.
But you're saying you got 14,000.
Well, we
but
may or may not.
We won't have by the time this is over.
Yeah.
We're running a zero budget.
And-
Every dollar we bring in over the next year is going to be spent on budgetary items. There's no reserves or cash balances for anything, there's no rainy day fund, there's nothing. And that's not a good situation to be in.
No, it's not.
But,
GFOA would not like that.
How many-
The GFOA, the government.
Financial
That
officers.
means-
How many library employees are we talking about?
Let me-
4, 5, 4?
Four, I think, right?
If you take the 118,
There's five.
if you take the 118, subtract off the 27, that leaves you at 91,000. If you do a 3% pay raise, that's only additional, about another $3,000 that you need to come up with. If you do a 3% across the board pay raise for library staff.
So for those 5 people, 3%.
It's really just
What-
two full-time.
What I'm saying is for that $91,000 pot, it would cost you about $3,000 to $4,000 if you wanted to do a 3%
Where
pay
do we get
raise.
a $91,000 bond?
Take the 118,000 that's in the budget now, and you're reducing it by 27,000, right? That leaves you $91,000 for salaries to allocate, however, Kathy so decides.
Yeah.
And so if you look at a 3% pay raise, that takes it up to 93, right at 94,000, so that's a $3,000 difference. Just follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you give them a 2% pay raise and you pay them their insurance, giving them the increase in paying their insurance fund, how much money would be left to be put someplace else?
The budget's already accounted for.
Yeah, we've already accounted for that.
Right down to that.
So I think you have a direction.
yeah,
I think you've got it.
my recommendation is I think a 2% increase is where I would be looking, not 3. I'd be looking across the board, 2% increase, not for police and fire, that's gonna be a separate issue. No increase for Isaac. And, what? It's been here a month. Not even been here a month.
He hasn't even had-
And he's hardly said 2 words.
I feel like I've been here
3 years.
I bet you do. So 2% for everybody, and whatever's the balance is for the police and fire. Now, you're gonna give a 2% increase to the department heads and to Scott. And then all the rest of the police and fire get what's left. 10-11% increase.
That's counting the 14,000. Or not?
Yeah, I think that's counting the 14,000 and everything.
You should have some left over.
Whatever's left
Wow.
over should go to police and
We'll
fire.
put that in
Couple
the
thousand,
savings.
couple thousand.
Well, it's not enough to matter.
But do y'all have the money to repair the transmission in that police car sitting out there that could be out on the street?
We don't.
It's not worth repairing, okay.
The repairs more than what the car's worth.
Don't fix that car.
Okay.
You don't want that car running around the street.
Remember Wobble?
Asking.
Glenda, you've been around long enough to remember Wobble
So
Wheels?
what does that mean?
Wobble wheel?
Remember Wobble Wheels? Where you just Redfern? No, it wasn't Miss Redfern, it was, what was her name? Wobble Wheels. So, all the
Have to go talk to some of the police.
drive down the street and
The wheels wobble and do like this.
Who was it?
Miss Hampton, it's Miss Hampton.
Barbara?
I know, I hear you.
Barbara Hampton, they used to write in the local newspaper columns all the time about Wobble Wheels going down the streets and all
That's
that.
2% word on library.
Allison, you remember that?
I really don't.
Plus,
I
years
think
ago.
Barbara.
Years and years ago.
We all miss Barbara, don't we?
What else, isn't, what's her face up here?
She kept everything going.
What?
Or even 2% raise there. She doesn't, they don't have all full-time employees in the library.
My question wasn't all that.
I don't know, I don't know the rest of the question.
The dollar value of 2% pay raise across the board.
Can you take the 4 people that are not gonna be increased? Actually, what you have to do is you have to take all the police and firemen out, then you have to take the other department heads out, and then you have to
Come
figure out
on,
what a 2%
Jason, start
increase
spitting
is
those numbers
for the
out.
rest.
Like 5 people left.
Yeah, there's really about 5 people left, so.
Well, there's 4 or 5 in the library, there's 1 here.
Let me, hold on just a second, I'll zip them out real quick. My computer's not gonna freeze up. If I took a wild rough guess, probably 5,000 or less. That's a swag.
Wanna do the enterprise?
Okay, let's see, who do we have left?
Same 2%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that better go fast.
Is it tonight? Is it tonight?
5 minutes.
Okay.
I think we're dangerously close to being done with this stuff.
So if it's 5,000 or so, if we subtract that from the 35, how much is the pay raise of that for police and fire? 8, 9?
7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range.
Well, that 5 doesn't have to come from that 35. That 5 can come from this 14.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to keep as much in that 14 as possible. So we don't end up in the red about the cost of the lot.
You never know if you're gonna wind up in the red.
This is the craziest budget stuff I've ever been a part of, I swear.
It has been, but it's been helping.
I mean, this is unbelievable.
I don't know if anybody else gets tired of it, but I sure am.
Two more.
I'm saying if we have a 0 there, there's no room for error anywhere.
I was wrong.
Uh-oh.
Welcome
It's
to the
actually
Aubrey.
about 11,000.
How much?
The 2% is about 11,000 if I did it right.
You did.
Well, you just make sure you do it right and then tell us what
There's no
at the
way.
hearing.
Jason, did you pull out all the police and fire staff?
I only counted Chief Payne, Chief Starr, Captain Downs, the building tech, and $91,000 in library.
We're talking about 400,000 in salaries, give or take.
You're talking about
Not even, 350.
370,000, yes.
So 2% of that's $7,200.
I'm so sorry. I used 3%. Hello, 7,400.
Just fix it and email it to us.
If you take that off the 14, you still leave $7,000 there. I mean, out of a $2.2 million budget, the difference between 14,000 and 7,000 is
And it
minuscule.
doesn't necessarily mean that the city has to spend all the money that's allocated for certain line items.
Right.
Right.
You know, case in point is one of the items that we discussed this afternoon, or this evening, with Aubrey.
And again, I said this the other day, I don't remember if Gary was here or not, but you department heads that are in this room in particular, things that you can control, the budget items that you can control, I know you can't control the electric bills and things like that, but the items that you control, there has to be some serious expectation that you remain within budget. So if you see yourself creeping up to 100, I mean, we have line items in our budget this year were 140% of budget, 180% of budget, 200% of budget. That can't fly anymore. I mean, that certainly can't fly when we're pinching pennies like we are and trying to rob Peter to pay Paul around town. So there's going to be an expectation. I'm certainly going to be watching closely, and I would hope that you do too. And Isaac, let's make sure we get them a copy of that budget every month so they know where they
Jason,
stand.
we're not gonna do enterprise fund?
We can real quick. I didn't come prepared. The budget looks fine.
But when are we gonna do it?
You essentially have already had the budget. I handed that out a couple weeks ago.
The only thing left on that really was salaries as well.
Salaries
right?
as
So-
well.
It was just a matter of what you wanna do with the raises on salary.
So when are we gonna meet on that one then?
Why can't we do it now?
Let's just deal with it
Oh, no,
now.
he's packing up.
What's
I have
We want you to-
another commitment that I gotta go take care of. I can come back.
How long will you be gone?
We can go in 20 minutes.
Maybe go into recess?
I'm prepared to deal with this stuff tonight. I know we're all busy, so.
Yeah, it's better tonight they come back.
Yes, let's go. Yeah, we can certainly go over enterprise fund.
In the meantime, while you're gone, can you provide Isaac whatever he needs to be able
So
to
he makes
print out so
copies?
we can look at stuff and,
Got your.
Can you bring dinner too?
that's what he's going to do. He's going to heat up some macaroni.
So are we, adjourned for the moment?
Not adjourned, you're in recess.
In recess for the
Take a
moment?
15-minute break.
Okay.
I think we're
I like